On to part 2. We're going to look at the back of your test review. Goal 4 is solving products of decimals to the hundredths. So this is multiplying a decimal, and it could be multiplying a decimal times a whole number or a decimal times a decimal. So in the first one, Lewis's water bottle holds 12 and 5/10 liters. If he drinks 3 bottles a day, how much total does he drink? Well, every day he's going to drink 12 and 5/10. On Monday he drinks that much. On Tuesday he drinks that much. On Wednesday he drinks that much. So that's repeated addition. So that's going to be multiplication. So remembering our strategy, we're going to count. There is 1 digit behind the decimal. So I'm going to write that and circle it. And then I'm just going to multiply 125 times 3, just as whole numbers. And I get 15, so I carry a 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And 3 times 1 is 3. And then I remember the final step. I bring the decimal into my answer, moving it over 1 time. The answer is 37 and 5/10. Okay, so looking at number 2, 1 chocolate chunk cookie from Chick-fil-A is 330 calories. How many calories are in 1 5/10 cookies, or 1.5 cookies? So again, you're multiplying 330 times 1 5/10. There is 1 decimal in the problem, so there should be 1 decimal in your answer. And for this one, I'm going to show that you can use whatever strategy you are comfortable with. So I'm going to use the area model. Okay, so in this first box, I have 300 times 10, so there are 3 zeros in my answer, and 1 times 3 is 3. So 3,000. The next one is 30 times 10. 2 zeros being in my answer makes 300. 5 times 300, if I put those 2 zeros in, 5 times 3 is 15. And 5 times 30 is 150. And if I add all of that up, I get 3,300 on top, 1,650 on bottom, and together that will make 4,950. And when I add that decimal back into my answer, it's just in front of the 0. So the 0 drops off, because remember, you don't need a 0 behind a decimal. And it is simply the whole number, 495 calories. Okay? So, the next one, Miss Muhammad. Oh, what's Miss Muhammad doing? Well, she's going to make name tags for her 38 students and Miss Boskirt's 42 students. The materials for the name tags cost 52 cents each. What is the total cost of the materials for Miss Muhammad will use to make the name tags? So she's buying, we want to know the name tags, the total cost for name tags. So I need to know how many name tags, and I'm going to multiply that. Each one costs 52 cents. Well, when I'm looking at name tags, it doesn't just straight tell me how many name tags. Instead, it tells me that she's making them for her class, which is 38, and Miss Boskirt's class, who has 42 students. So I needed to add that together before I can multiply. So the actual multiplication problem turns into, if I move this 10, that makes 40. 40 plus 40 is 80 times 52 hundredths. So there are 2 digits behind the decimal. So when I multiply, I'm going to multiply 52 times 80. Okay. And I wrote it this way with the 80 on the bottom on purpose because I wanted to show you that when you multiply, when there is a 0 here, you don't need to multiply a whole row of zeros. They're just 0. Instead, you can start 0. You can start in the tens place with the 8. And I'm still starting in my answer in the correct place. Once I get that 0 for this 0 and the ones, I can start automatically with the 10. So 8 times 2 is 16, and I carry a 1. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 1 is 41. And I put the 2 decimals back in my answer, 1, 2. So I can see that she's going to spend $41.60. Okay, the last thing that we're going to go over is area and perimeter, which you do have your star chart for. So, the base of a rectangular prism has a length of 16 inches and a width of 4 3/10 inches. What is the area? Area, we know on our star chart, says length times width. So this is going to be 16 times 4 3/10. There's 1 decimal in my problem, so there needs to be 1 decimal in my answer when I'm done. And I can multiply here. 3 times 6 is going to be 18, carrying a 1. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. Starting in the tens place, I add my 0. 4 times 6 is 24. I don't need that 1, instead I need the 2. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 is 6. Together, this makes 688, and when I add that 1 decimal in, it's 68 8/10. And the last one, it says the side of a square is 9 2/10 of a meter, which statement is true. The perimeter of the square, so on this one you need to go ahead and find both the area and the perimeter and match your answers to which one is correct. The perimeter is 84 6400 because 9 2/10 times 9 2/10 is 84 6400. Well, I know that this is area. Multiplying those are area. This said perimeter, so that can't be the answer. The perimeter of the square is 36 8/10 because 9 2/10 times 4 is 36. This is correct. If you look at your star chart, it says 4S equals perimeter. 4 times the sides because there are 4 sides. So that's a maybe. The area is 9 2/10 times 2. No, the width is the same as the length because all sides are the same. So that's not the correct multiplication to find the area. So that can't be the answer. And the area is 9 2/10 times 4, which makes 36 8/10. Cannot be true because that's how we find the perimeter. So the only answer that is true is that the perimeter is 36 8/10 inches.